Hello and welcome to Everyday Oral Surgery. This is your host, Dr. Grant Stucki. I am an oral and maxillofacial surgeon practicing in Denver, Colorado. The goal of this podcast is to connect, learn, and inspire. In this podcast, you'll be hearing from OMS surgeons all over the globe discussing ways to improve the practice of oral and maxillofacial surgery. Most information shared in this podcast will be based on personal experience and opinions, so please supplement what you learn here with approved research studies. Without further ado, please enjoy today's episode. All right, welcome back, everyone. Today I'm talking again with Roger Levin, Dr. Roger Levin, CEO, founder of the Levin Group. We've done tons of great episodes. Roger, thank you so much for joining us again.
Grant, I'm thrilled. I love this podcast. You're helping a lot of people, which I love to do, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, I've gotten great feedback on some of our other episodes. Today we were going to talk just a little bit about some of the relevant things going on, in our nation, our world, about the economy, strange stuff that haven't seen in several years. And I think there's a lot of people who've probably reached out to you. Some have reached out to me, especially younger surgeons trying to plan their career. What do you think the next best move is, type of a thing for me? What would you recommend? So I thought, that could be a good topic. What are your thoughts on this one?
This is a really essential topic, and I'm delighted that we're talking about it right now because I hope to give people some insights as to what's happening economically, what the effects might be, and what you can do about it. So the way I would set this up is to go back to 1985 when I started Levin Group, our consulting firm. And starting in 1986, I've been through 5 recessions. The first 3 were real estate recession, basically another real estate style recession, and then the dot-com bubble burst. The beauty was dentistry did not see any effect to the practice. Our portfolios, if you remember 1999, if you were practicing in 1999, our portfolios got hit. But there were 2 great factors. One, you knew it wasn't going to last long. These were 2-year recessions. Nobody thought the world was ending. You knew exactly why it happened. And the drop wasn't that much, even in the real world. There were businesses off 10%, but you weren't watching a lot of businesses going bankrupt right and left. Then the Twin Towers came down in 2001. And dentistry did feel that, but almost not measurable. So once again, we were what was called by economists recession-proof. I said to many dentists during those recessions, don't worry about it. You're not going to be affected. And if you hold on to your stocks, they will come back. And then we got to 2007. And that was the first time dental practices were no longer recession-proof. Levin Group collects tremendous data. We do a lot of surveys. And we showed that the general practices dropped in production by 10%. Oral surgery practices dropped in implants from double-digit growth to single-digit growth. So, for example, a practice that was growing 14% a year with implants was suddenly growing 2 or 3%. And implant sales nationally in the United States, implant sales dropped down to 2 or 3% growth. So we had a real change in how recessions or bad economies affect dentistry. But here's the good news. Once again, in 2007 and 8, a very, very deep United States recession. We knew the cause. It was real estate. It was housing. We knew it wouldn't last. We would bounce back. And 2 other things did not change. Overhead didn't go up. And there was no staffing crisis or staffing shortage, so staff compensation also did not go up. Fast forward to today. We have a staffing crisis, and staff compensation in 2022 already went up 10%. And inflation took place, another 6%. So the average dental practice starting in around 2022 saw overhead rise somewhere between 8 and 11%. And that hurts because that's $8,000 to $11,000 of profit gone on every $100,000 of production. So you and I have talked about this. Grow your production, you'll be fine. Except that all of a sudden now, fast forward to today, we've got a very uncertain economy. And that's my key word today. The number 1 word of the year will be uncertain. And The economy is uncertain for a number of different reasons. A lot to do with government policies, a lot to do with regulation, a lot's going to have to do with what I call the tariff effect. And there's no politics intended anywhere here. There is going to be a tariff effect of some type, and other countries are going to react to it. So when you put all those together, we have an economy that right now is down. At the time you and I are making this video, the stock market's probably down a little over 10%. Not so bad. We can all survive that. We grew a lot the last few years, but everybody is concerned. And they're concerned not only because of the stock market drop and potential inflation, but because of uncertainty. So that brings me to my advisory for oral surgeons. What's going to happen? What's going to happen are several things. Number one, general dentists, when they slow down, their referrals slow down within 2 to 3 months after that. We are getting many calls now from oral surgeons and other specialists that are seeing the first winds of a decline taking place within their practices. None of it terrible. This is not gloom and doom. The world isn't falling apart. We just don't know where things are going. Could get better, could get worse. So when general dentists slow down, they do several things. Number one, they start doing more specialty treatment if they can. So for surgeons, you'll probably eventually see they're taking out some teeth. You might get to take out the roots of those teeth when they finally get sent to you. They might try placing more implants because they've got to pay their bills as well. And we're already noting on the general dental side an increase in no-shows and last-minute cancellations. And that is the first sign that things are slowing down. Patients are putting off hygiene treatment. Next will be declining larger cases. Orthodontics is one of the leading indicators. They are starting to slow down slightly as well. It could reverse if the economy gets better. But I personally think the uncertainty, even if the economy gets better, the American consumer is going to be very concerned about what they're spending, where they're spending. And orthodontics in 2007 and 8 dropped about 11%. We have no idea where things are going today. But after orthodontics declines, then oral surgery and endo follow next. So, because people just want to hold on to money, especially in the world of implants, which, there's still an elective service. And in good times, people buy more implants. In bad times, they put off buying implants. But the other factors, Grant, include, and I know I'm going on for a bit here, but I'm trying to give a good foundation. We now have more options for people. They can get implants at a DSO. They can get implants from certain general dentists. They can go online and find implants for half the cost or the fee of an oral surgeon or less. Years ago, not that many years ago, we met a general practice. They were not a client of ours, and they were offering implants at a very, very low price, like $700. And I couldn't understand, how does anybody do an implant for $700? Well, they were willing to lose a little bit of money on the implant to get the restorative. The implant was their loss leader. Now, that hasn't taken off in any way, but you are going to see GPs with lower cost implants. And then you're going to see DSOs pushing them heavily as well. In addition, some implants are now covered by insurance. Some oral surgeons don't participate with those plans because the reimbursements aren't great, but you have competitors that do, and those patients might find their way to the competitors as well. Lastly, whenever you have an upheaval like this, referral patterns change. So everybody says, oh, I've got these top referring doctors. They're always going to support me. They're always going to be mine. Not the case. The last couple recessions, including during COVID, we saw it was much easier to transition general dentists to a new referral source because they get concerned, they get uneasy, and they will pay attention to whoever's paying attention to them. So there's more to talk about, but I'll stop there for now.
Yeah, that's a very helpful rundown. I think COVID really, for me, enhanced some of the beauties of oral surgery because many of my colleagues who were orthodontists, for example, were completely shut down, couldn't do a single thing. We, on the other hand, still were clipping along at a pretty good pace. A lot of patients in pain, people with abscesses, things considered quote unquote, urgent, emergent type surgeries. So definitely felt, some of the elective things fall off, but I feel like oral surgery as a whole is pretty resistant to, financial hardness. But like you say, there's aspects like implant dentistry, wisdom teeth that aren't hurting. There's people who just are going to delay some of that stuff. I mean, even in my own practice where I work very closely with general dentists, I see them starting to do a lot more implants and they're taking out teeth. I mean, just today I had a dentist refer me, two teeth that she was trying to take out, broke the crown off, couldn't get them out. She struggled for like 6 hours and then said, okay, fine, have Dr. Stucki to finish the job. So I think there's a lot more of that in hard times. People are trying to do stuff that maybe they're not comfortable with, and we end up having to clean up some things like that. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, I have a joke about that actually. So the answer to your question before my joke, I'm not a good joke teller, but it's kind of a good joke. But the answer is you're going to see a lot more general dentists starting to take out teeth, try impactions, and place implants. And it'll be directly proportional to how deep and long any economic downturn is. We're not in a recession right now. And I don't know if we will or won't be. No, nobody knows the answer to this. My joke is that what you should teach the general dentist is after you break the tooth and leave the root tip in, the script is, Mrs. Jones, I did the hard part. Let me get you to the specialist to finish this up. So, so
Nice.
if anybody thinks that's funny, you've got to have a little bit of humor in there.
Yep.
But Grant, if you think back, for example, during COVID, things were different. COVID was a bad period of time, and yet in 2020, we had a number of clients that had great years. 2021, we had a huge number of clients that had record years. And that was all pent up demand. People were just racing in. 2022 was a tougher year because of overhead increases, but production still went up. It just didn't go up as much as overhead. And in 23, production went up again, and in 24. So we haven't had 5 bad years. We've had an upward economy since 2012 for the most part, but it's changing. And, I just read today our GDP for the first time in many, many years in the first quarter was actually, we had a loss. So what this all means is that surgeons need to take and accelerate one step right now. And that step is referral marketing. And you and I have done podcasts on that. I hope we'll do more. And, there's a story about the fox and the hedgehog. And I love this story. The fox is very smart and very clever, and it knows many ways to kill a hedgehog. The hedgehog is not very bright. It only knows one thing. If I curl up in a ball, the fox can't hurt me. It can't penetrate my skin, my lining, whatever I have. This is not a biology lecture. So the fox wants to kill the hedgehog. It's got all these different ways to go after the hedgehog. The hedgehog knows one thing. I'm going to curl up in a ball. It can't hurt me. Specialists only need to know one thing. Surgeons need to know one thing: referral marketing. If you get enough referrals, you will always be fine. You don't need 10 things. You need, and this is my statement, to max out your referral marketing potential right now. And here's why. It's not just because I love referral marketing and we do it and all that. This is really good advice. Because if you do it right now and the economy gets worse, which is a possibility, then you're protecting yourself going forward. Because if you can increase your referrals 20% and you go down 10%, you still have a net gain of 10%. If you increase 20% and you go down 20%, you're still even. And even might be really good depending on what happens. If I am wrong in my thoughts that, it's going to be a turbulent time, and certainly the uncertainty is going to cause people either way to back off and sit and wait a little bit. And if I'm wrong, then you're only better off because you did all that referral marketing, you have all these extra patients, more production, and more profit. But what it goes to are 3 stages of a practice. And Grant, you may remember and you may want to comment. The first stage is achieving success when you're just getting going. When you're building up, when you're happy to go out there and go to GP offices and unbelievably And it embarrasses me for my colleagues. Some of them don't even come out to see you, which I think is incredibly rude. But you're willing to go through all that. You don't have a lot of ego around it. You just want to get referrals. So you achieve success by getting out there, usually low cost marketing strategies, followed by just being present, meeting them, getting together with them. I remember one oral surgeon who would go to 2 lunches in a day if he could get 2 GPs to go to lunch with him. I said, well, when you're done with all that, we'll put you on Weight Watchers. But so far, so good. Once you achieve success, which is most surgeons, you're now in the next phase, maintaining success. And this is where you fall off. This is where the word is hubris. This is where you begin to think, I'm doing great. I don't need to market. I don't even want to do that marketing. I want to go home. I'm married, maybe. I got kids, maybe. I've got responsibilities. I've got life happening. I work really hard. I'm tired. I don't want to do that stuff. And if you're doing okay, that was fine until now. My message is if you're in the maintaining success phase, which is going to be the bulk of your career, hopefully improve, increase, and accelerate your referral marketing to the maximum right now. Use all the right strategies and science, and go back and listen to podcasts that Grant and I have done together, because I describe a lot of it for you and I hold nothing back. I'll try to give everything I can. And then there's this other phase I call protect success. You've done well. You're somewhere between average and above. You've done well. When I say average and above, people think average is a bad word. If I said to you, Grant, I like working with you, but you're average, you're probably never going to call me again. Like, thank you, Roger. That's the last time you'll be on my podcast, because people think average is bad, but average is average. Most things I do in life, I'm either average or below average. I hope I'm really good and above average at the key things I do in life, but most things I'm pretty average or below. Average isn't bad. And there's another joke, if we're doing jokes today, about physicians, because, and this could be surgeons, but if you say to a physician, did you know that half of your medical school class is in the bottom 50%? They will look at you and go, that's not true. Physicians are really smart. They don't understand that half the class had to be in the bottom half, right? So,
Right.
okay. So, if you're average or above, because if you're below average, you want to get better and you should be doing, everything you can to get referrals. But if you're average or above, do not rest on your laurels. Protect your future, because protecting your future only happens if you have a good, I used to say until 2 months ago, having a good referral marketing program. Now I'm going to say you need a great referral marketing program, because if you wait until you see the inevitable decline, if the economy goes in the wrong direction, nobody knows. But if it does, everybody's going to jump in all at once. Everybody's going to want to be in referral marketing instantly. And the competition in that situation is so much heavier and harder and more challenging to build those referrals. And I also mentioned to you, Grant, that in a time of chaos, we see, and I've been around long enough, we see referring doctors willing to change to new surgeons. They start gravitating to whoever supports them, where they feel like somebody cares, a relationship. Some of our listeners have phenomenal practices, and they haven't talked to many of their A doctors in 1, 2, 3, 4 months. And that's just not going to be a good strategy going forward. Protect what you have.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on practices who maybe are fee for service, that treat a high, really wealthy clientele, but then you hit a really hard time in an economy, and a lot of these patients now are turning to insurance, and the referrals are drying up. Do you counsel them to take insurances? Do you have any thoughts on that regard?
As usual, Grant, and that's why your podcast is so successful. You ask really brilliant and insightful questions, and that's one of them. The statement I've been making, because I'm starting to write about this, and certainly we're advising our own clients on this. We're looking at who's enrolling in our program. Is there a change where we're seeing people enrolling that might not have bothered a year or two ago? They felt fine, and they're still doing fine. They're just looking at the future. And one of the statements I've been making is even wealthy people get nervous. You, there are people with tons of money. They can buy the implant. They're never going to run out of money. The economy would have to pretty much crash for them to run out of money, but they still get nervous and they still start pulling back. And the elderly, especially, and I'm not talking about the elderly person living, hand to mouth on Social Security. And I feel for them because, their dollars aren't going to go as far either. But there are plenty of wealthy people that are going to reject treatment, that are not going to go to the dentist. They get nervous. I was talking to a friend of mine who's very well to do. I've known him my whole life. And he said to me, I was going to buy new porch furniture. Think about this. We're talking about porch furniture, which could be several $1,000s. He said, I think I'm going to put that off till I see what the stock market's going to do. Because a lot of wealthy people equate the stock market with the economy. If the market's down, in their mind, the economy's down and the implant will wait. And here's the problem with waiting that I found. When people think I'm going to wait, they often don't get back to it. They never get the ortho case. They never get the implant. They take out the tooth instead of having the root canal, but they never, they might get a partial or eventually maybe a bridge, but they don't go for the bigger case. So my warning to everyone is accelerate to the highest level of referral marketing now. Whatever you need to do to get re-energized, excited, motivated, bring yourself back to that kind of thinking because you may need it. And again, if I'm wrong, you're only going to be better off. And that's important to me, that I never give advice that hurts anybody.
Yeah, that's definitely helpful. I mean, because I've seen that as well. I've seen very wealthy, patients pull back, shop around. I mean, people who make 2, 3 plus times as much money as I do and still get real nervous in the economy. And I think maybe there's probably that temptation for the fee for service guy to say, oh, well, let's just shift to all insurance and start taking plans and who knows what else. But probably they should focus on what you're saying first, is the referral marketing and putting as much energy as you can into that.
Well, and it's also the only thing we can control. We're all obsessed at the moment with the news. And while everybody says they're not watching the news, they're getting it somewhere. So everywhere I go, people are talking about what happened today, what was the new change, what's the new regulation, what's the new policy, what's the new legal issue. Everybody's talking about it, and we can't do anything about it. So certainly we should be aware of what's happening. But the only two things we can really control monetarily are the production in our practice. The more referrals you have, the more production. It's very simple. It's the hedgehog knows one thing. If you get enough referrals, you'll be fine. You cannot participate in an economic downturn should it occur. And the second thing are our investments. And I always advise people, stay close to your investment advisors and make sure that they have a good plan to protect your downside. I had an oral surgeon, literally an oral surgeon, tell me last week that I was talking to that he doesn't even want to buy treasuries because he thinks that the world might not respect our treasuries anymore. And we're making all this stuff up. We need experts who are watching our investments every day. Let them watch the investments. The oral surgeons should be out there producing chairside, and the rest of the time, relationship development and referral marketing with referring doctors. And I do want to add something you and I have talked about quite a bit. You need a PRC. Some of the people hearing this are thinking, where am I going to get the time? I have no more time. Even though surgeons are incredible energy, as I said, it's a compliment from me, type A driven people that want to do well. That's a compliment from me. There is a limit. You need a PRC, professional relations coordinator, right now that you train or gets trained to carry out your referral marketing program. The highest value of a surgeon is either surgery or one-on-one or group relationship building with referring doctors. There just is nothing higher. For example, we have one doctor who had a very large study club. Well, the problem with a large study club is you can't talk to everybody. You go there, you're not developing enough relationships that way. So we've now broken it up into 3. Yes, it will take him more time, but the result's going to be much better relationships and more referrals from that particular strategy. So a lot of our own strategies at Levin Group, and we have teams that do nothing, well, not the only thing they do, but there are times where they do nothing but work on new strategies. We're going to see a strategy shift in the approach. And one of them is, how are you supporting your referring doctors to help them do better? Because they will, if you do that, they are going to gravitate to you and they are going to love you. But you're going to have to take the steps. This is now a bigger part of what every surgeon needs to be doing.
In a recession type economy, I mean, I would think you'd see surgeons pulling back on referral marketing costs and like saying, hey, this is this is a huge chunk of my overhead. Let's cut down on that. I mean, do you see that? And how do you hold someone's hand through those types of sentiments?
Yeah, and as I've told you, Grant, I have a couple of principles in my own life. One is to never be defensive. So anything I say here is not me defending referral marketing. And that's, again, another really, really good insight, which is you only do referral marketing for return on investment. I have no illusion that people hire us, engage Levin Group for consulting today because they have some other reason other than increase referrals, increase practice production and income. That years ago in our management consulting, I used to have people call periodically and say, not that infrequently, Roger, I don't care if I grow, I just want to get rid of my stress. We don't hear that anymore. We hear, I want to grow, or I want to make sure I stay where I am.
Yeah.
I got off the phone earlier today with a 2-doctor, $5.4 million practice. They're doing great, but they're concerned. They got a new competitor in town. One of their competitors just started taking much more insurance. So to that end, I give them credit. They're looking ahead. So the answer is you do referral marketing just like you buy a stock or a bond or a treasury for return on investment. I know that's one of the things we always talk about. Our job is to make sure that our clients get a significant return on investment. Now, referral marketing, everybody, takes 5 or 6 months to kick in if you do it right. So don't think you're going to start doing it and suddenly 8 weeks from now, you're going to be up 20%. It happens, but it's more rare than the norm. So you got to give it a good 12 months to get the return on investment. But here's the data, Grant. If referral marketing works the way it should, now in a down economy, it might not work quite as well, but it'll still work. And we've seen that. The 20-year return is $8 to $10 million of revenue, practice revenue. Because when you grow referrals and you keep them strong, the excess that you have versus where you were before is $8 to $10 million of revenue. In a down economy, today's podcast, I'm talking more about protecting what you have today. So if a practice was going to drop 10% and we could keep it from doing that, well, that's not a 10% gain, but it's because I don't want to play with the numbers, but it really is because the net gain would be 10%. So we have seen this before. We've had very difficult situations where a practice was in a lot of trouble. And they were, let's say, for example, they were down 22%. And within a year, the next year, they were only down 8%. We picked up that extra 14%. And then the next year, they could go back to growing. So again, if there's a chance of declining, staying even is a really great thing. So that's number one. Number two is the biggest mistake you can make is to cut your marketing budget. Great companies increase their marketing budgets in bad times. It's the first thing they do. But we are business owners. We're small business owners. We see the dollars that go in and out, and we say, oh, okay, I don't have to have this. I'll cut it. Make sure you cut the right things, not the wrong things. Because if you cut anything that can hurt your referrals or production, then you end up with more decline rather than staying where you are. So your question is great. I encourage people, invest in referral marketing, track your monthly results, give it 6 to 12 months. And if the economy gets worse and you're doing the same or better, depending on how bad things get, and I'm not saying they will, but if they do, that's a win. That's a return on investment win as well. And that's the protect your future concept.
Nice. The other day I was reading a book and they were quoting, the author was quoting like John D. Rockefeller about how he learned so much when he was, I don't know, in his teens and 20s. He was like an apprentice and he saw
Yep.
a huge recession and he saw what people would tend to do in a recession. And he started seeing the upside every time the economy crashed or people in hard times, how there was opportunity in those hard times. And of course, he became incredibly wealthy by making really strategic moves in times of distress for the country. Are there any plus sides for us as oral surgeons? Any good things that can come out of these times of recession that we should be looking for?
Well, the first one I hate to talk about, but I try to be as transparent in my thinking as I can because it's about competition. There are surgeons who will be doing referral marketing and they will be gaining new referral sources. And those referral sources come from someone else. And referring doctors, as I said, are more open to supporting new oral surgeons if all of a sudden they're getting the attention, if they feel like there's both relationship development and something that works to improve their practice happening. That's number one. In terms of oral surgery, I think that the opportunities are flexibility, convenient scheduling, customer service, follow up with patients. I mean, from a customer service standpoint, you and I've talked about this. There are all kinds of things you can do, from how you greet patients, their first phone call, their experience when they walk in the office, calling them to see how they're doing from the referral marketing standpoint. If you send out 3 text messages a day, we're talking about 90 seconds of marketing for the doctor. And you can have an assistant do this too, saying a great patient, or Grant, thank you for the referral. Grant, hope you're doing great. The case went well. It doesn't sound like much, 3 a day. That can be 576 text messages a year. And by the way, if you're a multi-doctor practice, you're in more danger than the 1 or 2 doctor, because some of the doctors will be gung-ho, others will want to do nothing. Everyone will think someone else is doing it. So you've got to look at referral marketing per provider. And I know we're going to talk, Grant, in another podcast about the multi-location challenges of the multi-location practice. So we'll get to that. But it's not opportunity within the practice. It's run the practice as in the very best way you possibly can and have a full-blown referral marketing program. I think the opportunity will be on the investment side. When do you buy? And this is not me, I'm not the expert here at all. When do you buy? When do you sell? What do you buy? What do you sell? And that's where you need, but if you do well with your referral marketing, you'll have income to work with your financial advisors. Just keep in mind, nobody knows where anything's going at this point, which means so many people are just paralyzed at the moment. And we're seeing a lot of that.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the thing that comes to my mind too is, during uncertain times where your referrals are probably doing more surgical procedures, like I mentioned just today, having that experience, there's probably the temptation, to get more annoyed as a surgeon because you're seeing more of these quote unquote crappy cases that are half done and patients really irritated because they've been sitting in the chair for 4+ hours already. But those are, I feel like, such powerful moments to, if you do have a good attitude, like just today I was like, hey, I got you, I got your back, doc, I'll finish this up, we'll be fine, but don't worry about it. When a dentist is in distress like that and they're like sweating and, hey, can you take this root tip out or whatever, fix this infected implant or something, and you do it with a good attitude, those are like galvanizing moments, I feel like, that can be very powerful for your practice.
Oh, I could not agree with you more. We have a whole process we teach. Number one, never get angry. Okay. If a referring doctor who sends you nothing sends you a bad case or a case where you have to bail them out, getting angry is a total waste of time. And you then do, pardon me for saying it this way, you then do stupid things. We've got surgeons that have called up and chewed out a general dentist, sometimes a general dentist who they work with, never to see a patient again. But remember, the general dentists talk to each other. You always want to leave every situation with the best possible relationship. You have a right to say, I'm not going to take patients from this practice anymore, but don't do it in an angry manner. And if you're going to do it with support. The patient should feel that nothing was done wrong by the GP. So I've had surgeons say, well, should I tell them that this general dentist did a terrible job? No, that it's not an ethics question, it's a business question. Why would you ever tell a customer that someone who you depend on did something terrible to them? But then we don't stop. Now, some of the surgeons right now are saying, well, wait a minute, Roger, if they're doing a bad job, okay, telling one patient isn't going to stop anything. Then what we explain is you need to get together with the GP. You need to take judgment out of your thinking and your voice and say, Grant, saw this patient, and they'll get together with you because they know they made a mistake, took care of everything, protected you. The patient asked if anything was wrong. I assured them that this was a complex case. And I just want you to know that when you see a case like this, if you'd rather not take it on, I will be more than happy to handle it for you because I'm here to support you. And that's your message until you decide not to work with somebody, which we do deal with that too. But I'm here to support you. You're either 100% supportive or zero, and there's nothing in between. And those zeros should be few and far between. And typically, it's someone who sent you 2, 3, or 4 problems and never sends you anything else. So you have nothing to lose at that point from a production standpoint. But you don't do it in a mean way. You don't say in an angry text. You simply nicely say, we're not going to be able to fit your patient in. That's all. And you might want to contact another OMS practice who isn't going to want them either, but at least you don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
All right. Any other comments about kind of trying to succeed in uncertain times?
I do. Number one, don't go day by day or week by week. Nobody knows what's coming. There are a lot of things that could happen in 60 days, 90 days, 2 weeks. If you react every day to what's happening, you'll drive yourself out of your mind because the only answer is referral marketing at the highest level right now. And I can't encourage if some of the listeners say, I get it, I'm doing fine, but I'm going to get out there and double my efforts and make sure I protect what we maintain our success and protect our future, then I'm going to feel really good about that. And as I said to you when you and I were chatting earlier, Grant, there are a million parts to the explanation about what's going on, but there's only one solution. Because if you have enough referrals, you are always going to be fine. And surgeons are great at building relationships. Anyone can do it. If you're worried about how you relate to other people, read Dale Carnegie's book that you and I talked about, How to Win Friends and Influence People. But you need strategies carried out on your behalf by your PRC, and you need strategies of one-on-one touching your referring doctors for relationship development. And they, even in down times, they are very open to hearing from you. My last comment would be the positive voice, not Pollyanna, not saying, oh, the world's great when it isn't, but don't get into these depressing, negative, how bad things are conversations. Be uplifting. Because here's what's going to happen. Things will get better. Nothing stays down if it goes down. The stock market will improve. It will not stay down forever. There may be changes in the world. You may not like what's happening today, but it all balances out. Be the positive voice for your referring doctors. People gravitate to positive people.
I like that. One more thing I notice in economic hard times, I'll get more visits from my front desk staff or team members coming back. Hey, doc, I got so-and-so up there. They're scheduled for an extraction bone graft implant. They just say it's too expensive. Like, is there anything we could do for them? Any discounts? And there's just more of those conversations, and like patients kind of basically saying, can you throw me a bone at all? And I mean, I don't know your philosophy is, but I mean, I'm pretty flexible, and whenever someone asks that, most of the time I'll just be like, sure, what do you think? And we kind of work with patients. We're not real strict type of practice. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that type of stuff?
I sure do. And by the way, my thoughts are different in a tougher economy. Everything in life, I believe, is situational. So in a tougher economy, number one, and we're now moving into the management side, your team needs to know how to create value. So the front desk people need to be just as good at explaining the value of an implant and a bone graft or a third molar removal as the doctor or the treatment coordinator. Everybody in the practice needs to be really good at explaining the benefits. And by the way, quick tip, anytime you explain anything, you should have 3 key benefits to any service you're recommending. Just 3. Don't give them 7. People can't process that. The human mind does well with 3. What are the 3 benefits of an implant? 3 benefits of a bone graft? 3 reasons to get wisdom teeth out. And everybody in the office should know it, and you should be talking about it in your monthly staff meetings. Number 2 is you set a policy. So Grant, I'm fine with giving a patient a 5% courtesy or 10% courtesy. I don't have a hard and fast rule. If you turn down everybody, I'd rather have 90% than nothing. That's my philosophy, meaning I'm not big on discounting. You don't want to be known for discounts, but where appropriate, helping a patient out, helping a senior. And again, this is not ethical or moral. This is a business decision. We have a client where the financial coordinator, when asked that question, says, let me check. She walks back to the staff room. She sits down for a couple of minutes. She comes back. She doesn't ask anybody. She goes, we can absolutely do that for you, because she knows she has the range. She has permission within ranges to make that decision. So in good times, when you got all the patients you need, you don't have to worry about it. But right now, flexible and agile are 2 key words, and convenience. And helping people a little bit with the finance is convenience. I don't know that for 10% they can afford it, and for 100%, 10%, at 90% they can afford it, and 100% they can't, but it makes people feel good. So I wouldn't offer a carte blanche to everybody. And the other key is patient financing, Care Credit and the others. I say Care Credit because they've got about an 80, 90% market share. Here's the problem with a Care Credit. Do you have it, Grant?
Yes, we use it in our
Okay.
practice.
All right. So you have a sign at your front desk maybe that says, we take Care Credit, and nobody ever sees it. That's the problem. So we think that, well, patients know I've got a sign. Yeah, great. They don't know. So make sure you let patients know that patient financing is available, because when they can finance, that's equal to or better than a discount. So it's less discounts. And if they get the 6-month interest free, it's less than a 10% courtesy, but it makes them feel like, wow, interest free, I can do this. I can do this because I don't have to pay interest. The interest free words are really, really important. And every patient should be advised that it's available. And if anybody's panicked, like, well, wait a minute, I don't want to give all these patients, I don't want to pay, the patient financing company money every time a patient does it. People who don't need it don't take it. But there are people that are going to be coming in now that cannot afford treatment, and they need to know that financing is available. I'm huge on patient financing. I think it's a great opportunity, and it's going to grow a lot with this economy.
For sure. That's a valuable tool to offer patients.
Yeah.
All right. One other thing, which I'm not sure is super relevant, but I also notice in uncertain economic difficult times, just lots of staffing issues, like staff calling off. COVID, for some reason, I feel like it like made half of the hygienists of the world just disappear. And I have a philosophy on that. I don't even know if it's accurate, but I feel like hygienists in particular were a group of people who their work in itself was kind of elective for them. I think probably a lot were women who maybe didn't need to work. I don't know if this is true, but a lot just kind of said, hey, this is getting too risky, with infection control. I'm just going to retire, or I'm out of here. I think that I see that happening. Like my staff that maybe their job isn't like critical to their financial welfare every day, they're the first ones to not show up, to kind of say, hey, I'm just not all in here, and I need to take a break. Do you have any thoughts on that, on keeping staff together and a team together in hard times?
Yes, and data. So let me start with COVID. The data is, and this is published data, we do national surveys, that we lost 10% of our hygienists. It felt like 50 because we already had a bit of a shortage, but 10% more. Now, the difference was that people were making money staying home during COVID. They got unemployment. They weren't spending money on restaurants, travel, luxury, or entertainment. So when I say making money, we were saving, a lot of people saved a lot of money during COVID. That money's kind of run out now. If you look at credit card debt, we're at an all-time high. And that really concerns me, by the way, because we were at an all-time high before we started the last few months of new policies that have sort of hit the economy. A lot of people don't have a lot of access to more debt. That's where patient financing becomes beneficial. In terms of staffing, there's certainly people that don't need to work. Yes. And number two, but I don't think that's the majority. I think most Americans live today, if they're married, on double incomes. Now, there's certainly families where a spouse doesn't work, but a lot of people live their lifestyle's based on having two incomes. Number two is there are people who don't want to work in an office. So there are people who are quitting because they're just not going to drive in anymore. It's not even just the economy. They want to work remotely. But what could happen is with some of the, and we don't know yet. This is a maybe. And again, I'm in Maryland. We're going to be hit with the most federal workers, I think, released. So we're seeing it from a different lens. But we may see people actually not leaving because there may not be as many other jobs out there. And your assistant isn't going to go take a job mowing lawns. So even with changes in immigration, et cetera, and again, I'm making very broad comments here because no one knows how things play out yet. Their jobs, they're not going to go take. So I think it's more likely that people will take jobs for more money in other offices. So my advice is, read the online recruiting sites. A lot of states now require you to publish the salary and compensation and benefits. Make sure your team is compensated properly. If I were in practice today, I would be paying my team probably about 10% over the top of the market because that's a lot cheaper than replacing people. And if you have a great team, then you want to keep them. You also need to educate them that they're being paid better than another job they can get, that they don't think about benefits. 401ks for most team members are not a benefit. If they leave you, they cash it out. They don't roll it over. They're not thinking about retirement, health benefits, et cetera. Health benefits have gone up in dental practices, actually, because it's their practices that still don't offer those. So the key is to really have a team building plan and then a great environment where your team does not want to leave, that any other practice would not be as much fun or enjoyable. And be careful, everybody, because it's easy to get frugal in these times so we're not taking our staff out for lunch. We're not bringing in lunches. We're not filling the refrigerator with snacks. We're not having those fun activities. Make sure you treat your team like customers because you need them. We need patients, we need referring doctors, and we need our team.
Yeah, that's great advice. So I'm hearing, that it's important in uncertain economic times to not have a reflex of, hey, let's cut costs dramatically, and really value the expenses that go into marketing, that go into building a great team, and be strong through hard times to keep that environment up so that your practice can continue to flourish.
Yeah, and that's your John D. Rockefeller opportunity, because even in good times, if you want to cut your overhead, you're probably going to only cut 3 or 4%. Don't try to cut your way to success. That's an expression of mine. Don't try to cut your way to success. You need to focus on those things that make the practice successful. And that's referrals, that's customer service, that's your team. If you try to cut your way to success in a bad economy, you're just going to cut your practices. Almost definitely, you'll end up cutting production, reducing production and profit. And I don't know this time how long things are going to go on, but I want to stress that uncertainty I talked about, it's going to be with us for a while. Because things have happened very fast. We don't really understand them. We don't know where it's going. Even if things get better, people are still going to be nervous and changing their behavior. So you want to be they're going to be winners in this scenario, which is great. Unfortunately, they're going to be losers, which we don't typically see in dentistry. I never want to see, but it is going to happen. And you want to be on the winning side. And I know your goal, Grant, and mine is to provide the education that helps people to get there and be there.
100%. Well, this has been a great topic. I really appreciate you running through that with us. Not the most maybe exciting topic, but I think very relevant and hopefully helpful to a lot of people. So good stuff. Any good books you've been reading lately or things you've been consuming from an educational standpoint?
Yes. Where did I put it? It was here. Yes, I have a great book. It's under my iPad, so I'm going to take it out here. Sometimes you just need inspiration. Now, if anybody disagrees with me, it's quite all right. But I am a huge fan of Admiral William McRaven. Now, many people just said, "Oh, is that the guy that did the motivational speech at University of Texas, former Navy SEAL, head of the whatever the term would be, the Joint Special Forces Command?" And he headed up the team, not as a soldier at that point, that found bin Laden and killed bin Laden. And he's been on the news. I love this guy. I mean, he just makes sense to me. He's calm. He's got ethics. He's got values. He's everything that I value. So this is just my opinion, but he has a new book out. Oh, by the way, I get no royalties, called Conquering Crisis. Here's what I love about it. 10 lessons to learn before you need them. That's kind of what you and I did today, which is get that referral marketing going before you need it. So it's a small book. It's not all that big, but I love it. I've got to fly to Kansas City tomorrow to give a lecture Friday, and that's going to be finished on the airplane. And whenever I read him, I'm just inspired to be the best person I can be and to be better than I am today. So that's one that I like very much that I would recommend. Yes.
Awesome.
The other one is getting a lot of play right now, and I'm about halfway in, is called The 5 Types of Wealth. And I'm sorry that you can't see it here because of my background. It's by Sahil, Sahil Bloom, Bloom, The 5 Types of Wealth. And I bought it because 2 billionaires that I like, Bill Ackman, the other one is Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, just in article interviews independently mentioned the book and said it's a book everybody should read. So, I'm a big reader. I bought it. It's a book on how to live. It's a book on how do you want to live, and that there are 5 types of wealth, one of which is money, and the other 5 types, physical, health, social. But it's got great stories, great insights, and he's getting a lot of traction these days. So The 5 Types of Wealth and then Conquering Crisis are the 2 books I'm reading right now. The other book I'm listening to on Audible, I'm a lifetime Winston Churchill student. I've been studying him for 50 years, and I'm reading about his son's first wife, Pamela Harriman, and what she did. And most people probably don't want to read it, but I'm finding it fascinating. You have to expose yourself to things that are not directly to our own benefit, that are just fun to know about. This is Churchill, and everything he ever did is one of mine. He's another hero of mine, along with McRaven, Admiral McRaven.
That's so great recommendations. I'll have to read those and get back to you.
Oh, you'll like them. And I always tell people, I'll tell your whole audience, if you buy it and you don't like it, send me the bill. I sincerely mean it. I will send you a check, because I get very excited about the books I read, and I love to share that with people. So if you hate the book, call Grant and he'll send me the bill.
Sounds like a plan. Oh man. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Roger, and running through that and sharing that great content with us.
Oh, thank you. I'll look forward to our next time together. Always enjoy it.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks so much. Talk to you later. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Everyday Oral Surgery. For more information on these podcasts, please visit everydayoralsurgery.com. I love feedback and would be very grateful if you would reach out to me via my email, grantstucki@gmail.com, and let me know what you thought of this episode. Or you can text me at 720-441-6059. Additionally, if you have any topics you'd like to hear about, or if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please email or text me. I found many of my interviewees through people who have been contacting me and have been listening, and I've gotten so many great ideas for more podcasts, and that's what helps keep the podcast rolling. So I really appreciate you making that extra effort and helping me out with feedback and knowing what to do next on the podcast. Thank you so much.